What's up, everybody? Charlie Marlow here. We normally start with college football, but this week we're going to talk about baseball first. Huge sports weekend. I was in Cleveland over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. That's why we're starting with baseball. Unbelievable atmosphere, progressive field. To me, it'll always be the Jake still. But the Cleveland Guardians, one of the most amazing stories, comeback stories we've seen. Whatever the number is, how many games they were back just in September of the Tigers. I believe it was 11 and a half games. And also, this team can pitch. But if you look at the offense, and I watched them play Saturday and Sunday. And by the way, my buddy Dan Puente is the assistant hitting coach. You look at their offensive numbers, though, and you see Steven Kwan, OPS is 700 something. And then Jose Ramirez is an absolute stud. His OPS, I think it's like 863. The rest of the team, basically, OPS is in the 600s, like 650 for almost the whole rest of the lineup. I looked last week still, so I don't know the exact number now, but they had a negative run differential for the season. They had a negative run differential for the season, and we're in first place. And you had just incredible moments over the weekend. On Saturday, great game versus the Rangers, and a freaking walk-off hit by pitch. They win with a walk-off hit by pitch, which gets them into the playoffs. So that basically got them at least the wild card. Then they come back on Sunday. So Saturday night, by the way, that's a night game. They do all the celebrations and all that. They do the champagne. Come back, day game, obviously, Sunday. Everybody plays at the same time, which is about 3:10 Eastern time. Cleveland's in Eastern time. I don't know if everybody knows that. I'm here back in St. Louis. I got back this morning. St. Louis is in Central time. And I grew up in Ohio. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio. But sometimes when I tell people, if they're not from Ohio, if you're from the West Coast or even Central time zone, you might think, wait, Ohio is on Eastern time. Ohio is the same time zone as New York. Yes, Ohio is on Eastern time. Anyway, so that game, really good game Sunday. Back and forth and goes to extra innings. And the Rangers put what? A 3 spot? Obviously, you have the ghost runner. Rangers put a 3 spot on the board. And then the Guardians are able to get a run and then frickin' walk it off the fair pole. Brian Rocchio, if I don't pronounce all that correctly. I'm sorry, I'm not diehard Guardians, although they're my team now, all right, because my buddy Dan Puente. But just crazy atmosphere. Fair pole, homer, walk-off. Now, to be fair, pun intended there, they had already clinched the division because the Tigers had lost earlier. You know, the Tigers game ended. They put it up there on the Jumbotron. Tigers game ended like, 20, 30 minutes before, maybe longer because this game went into extra innings and it took a while. So they already had the tiebreaker, the Guardians did, but pretty cool to actually win it on the field too. Like, it made it better. Obviously, you win the game. They already would have won the division based on a tiebreaker, but to actually finish a game ahead and then to be able to celebrate with the fans again out there. And it was pretty cool. They had this big flag for AL Central Division champs. Jose Ramirez is out there waving the flag. He kind of plants it in the ground. You had Fry. I should know his first name. Is it David Fry? I should know that. The guy who got hit in the freaking face with the 99-mile-an-hour fastball from Skubal last week. And he was out there with this crazy mask on over his nose. I mean, whatever he broke in his face or nose. I'm not even sure. I should have looked that up. But also, look, I'm never Mr. Journalism, but I'm really not Mr. Journalism this weekend because I was with the boys, all right? Met up with 3 or 4 of my buddies, and my brother met us out there too. So we were doing a lot of drinking. Good time. You know, you just get out there, do it for 2 days, come back to normal husband, father life. But I was just able to get out there, good direct flights from St. Louis to Cleveland. It just made sense. Come on back. But it was a great time. And even though obviously it wasn't a playoff game, it had a playoff atmosphere. Playoff start on Tuesday, playoffs. And it did then kind of just remind me of the comparison to the Cardinals, where, man, I got to experience so many moments like that covering the Cardinals from 2009, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 19, all the different years there. The wild card against the Dodgers, COVID was weird, but to see the Cardinals then, they get swept, and just to kind of go quietly into the night. And John Mozeliak, the president of baseball operations, he moves on. Heimblum's going to take over. Hopefully better things are ahead for the Cardinals. I think they will be. I don't know how quickly that'll happen, but just seeing a playoff atmosphere, walk-offs, a team with something to play for with the Guardians, it really did make me miss the fact that we can have that in St. Louis. It's been a while. We did have a couple games 2022 against the Phillies, so it's not that long ago. That was 3 years ago, but they've now missed the playoffs for 3 straight seasons. But we need that back because it's special. October baseball is special, and just that atmosphere was awesome. And it reminded me of all the great times we've had here in St. Louis with the Cardinals that we need to get back to, all right? Okay, as I was flying out, I'm flying out Saturday. There weren't really that many great early games. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm talking college football now. I believe, was it Illinois USC? Was that an early game? Correct me if I'm wrong. But that 2:30 window, it was pretty sweet because I flew out at like 2:25, had the Wi-Fi going on Southwest, and if I would have taken a picture of it, if I could have, I would have. But I was using my phone, but I had like the picture-in-picture going. It was pretty sweet. I had the laptop going with Ohio State, Washington on the big screen, and then I had my phone sitting up against it with LSU Ole Miss, so I created my own picture-in-picture. Really good games to watch. And this was like the first half of those games. The flight's only like an hour and a half. But Washington played Ohio State really tough, especially early. Ohio State comes back to win it, whatever the final score was, 24-6. Again, I was drinking this weekend. But just what a slate of games. When you're talking Ole Miss, LSU, and then the night games, you had Oregon, Penn State, you had Alabama versus Georgia. Just an awesome weekend of college football. And again, Ohio State, Washington was the game that I paid the most attention to. Then when I got to Cleveland, I watched the final, the fourth quarter at the bars there where people were obviously into it, doing the OHIO and all that. And I think, you know what, we'll see. I think Washington's pretty good. It wouldn't surprise me if Washington ends up being ranked. You could maybe make the argument that they should have been anyway, but they played Ohio State pretty dang tough, especially early. Also watching that game, it made me think. Ohio State, the number one team in the country, and I think they deserve to be the number one team in the country. I don't know if they'll win the national championship this year. When I watch them, and maybe they will, but I'm just saying, like, it's so hard to win the national championship and then to replace all that they lost when you're talking about your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator, your quarterback, both running backs, but also you're talking about the quarterback position. You're bringing in a super young and talented guy in Julian Sayin, but he's also super young and inexperienced. He's going to be really good. He's good now, is what I'm saying. But I just think it's a hard ask for basically, essentially a first year. He is first year starter, quarterback, and new offensive coordinator with Brian Hartline. Obviously, Matt Patricia, he's great, NFL experience at defensive coordinator, and having to replace Jim Knowles, who's a stud, and he goes to Penn State, and obviously Chip Kelly goes back to the NFL. All I'm saying is Ohio State's really good and really talented. I just think it's a really hard ask to ask a team to replace Will Howard, who was your quarterback, who, again, only played quarterback for 1 year at Ohio State, but he was at Kansas State for 4 years, whatever it was. So he was a veteran. You're asking the Buckeyes to replace your quarterback, your O coordinator, your D coordinator, bunch of NFL talent. I mentioned the running backs with Judkins and Trayvon Henderson. So, and who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But that's That's a tough ask to go back to back with replacing that much stuff. All right. Then how about the NFL game? Well, Sunday Night Football. Again, hey, we're drinking. We're going to the games. It was a day baseball game, 3 o'clock, went long till 6, past 6:30, whatever it was. So we kind of reconvened later for the Packers-Cowboys. That was a fun game to watch. I know people probably don't like the fact it ended in a tie, but man, 40-40, a lot of offense. That's what's fun about the NFL. Just watching two teams execute offensively. Very into that. By the way, people watching on YouTube, thank you. Please comment, like, and subscribe. If you're listening on Kenny Wallace Media, thank you as well. To my NASCAR folks, not going to lie, didn't get to watch any of the NASCAR race live because of when it took place during the baseball game, but Kansas is my favorite track for raceability, and just watching the highlights of that race and the finish where Denny Hamlin essentially, you could say, cost a guy who drives for him with 23:11. Bubba Wallace could have won the race. Denny's trying to win his 60th. They make contact. Bubba hits the wall, and that allows a Chevy. It allows the most popular driver in NASCAR, Chase Elliott, to win the race. What an incredible finish. People love the race. To me, Kansas is also just so racy. Guys can pass. It's fun to watch. So there you go. Couple other things just off the top of my head. And we've discussed this before, but I was pro the legalization of marijuana. But I have to say, the more you go into more of these cities, St. Louis also, just the fact that you have this overwhelming smell of marijuana is not a good thing. And again, I'm pro legalization of marijuana. I'm just wondering, do you need some type of rule where there's like a public, can it be like alcohol, where you're not allowed to do it in public? Now, obviously you have bars and stuff, but I'm saying like open containers. You can't usually walk down the street with a beer, with an alcoholic beverage. I'm just thinking out loud here because, man, some of these cities, Vegas was like this last time I went. Vegas is kind of always like this. You go places in downtown St. Louis, just the overwhelming punch you in the face smell of weed is not good for our cities. All right. If you're still watching, I appreciate it. In St. Louis, take care of our St. Louis sponsors, Triad Bank. I just had a closing today, and we paid off this loan of a rental property we sold from Triad Bank. They're always so easy to work with, whether you're buying, right, with your loans, whether you're selling and you're kind of paying off the loan. They're just relationship-based banking. So I think I have, 2 loans left with Triad Bank, but best thing I ever did for my rental property business was bringing all my loans from a big national bank that didn't care about me over to Triad Bank. We actually closed the loan today that was from the big national bank initially that I transferred over to Triad Bank because I was so disappointed with the customer service from my other bank. And I've never been disappointed with the customer service of Triad Bank. My guy, Matthew Tobin, check him out. I go to the Frontenac location. They also have, Creve Course at Frontenac location, and it's triadbanking.com. Check them out. St. Louis Lawn Care as well. St. Louis Equipment. You can tell my voice is struggling. Like I said, I was yelling. The Guardians won. We were drinking. I'm being honest with you guys. St. Louis Lawn Care, stlawncare.com, stlmowerrepair.com for St. Louis Equipment. Buy a mower, get your mower fixed, small engine stuff. I have a Crest battery-operated trimmer. They don't carry Crest products anymore, though. But they have Husqvarna. I have a Husqvarna blower I got from STL Equipment right now for leaf removal. They'll come do your leaves. That's STL Lawn Care. But all your blowers, if you want to get a blower for leaf removal for yourself. And then we'll mention this early, but salt. All your salt, bulk salt for when it gets cold and it gets snowy and icy. You can do all that at St. Louis Equipment, stlmowerrepair.com, and just opened a brand new location, pretty cool, in DeSoto, Missouri. So there you go. I wrote a bunch of things down, but then I'm not using my notes section here because I'm off my phone. So I kind of hit on the highlights there. A lot of baseball. I did watch a good amount of Ohio State, Washington, watched a decent amount early of LSU, Ole Miss. Didn't get to watch the night college football games because I was watching the baseball game. Didn't really watch any early NFL because I was watching baseball once again. But that night game, Sunday Night Football, was pretty awesome with the Packers and the Cowboys. So there you go. 15 minutes. I will bid you adieu. Can't go too super long because, again, I'm losing my voice. So thank you for struggling along with me as I try to get through my harsh voice from all of my drinking and cheering on the Cleveland Guardians, who now play the Tigers again. They host Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Can't wait for playoff baseball coming up this week. All right. Thanks, guys. Peace out.